So can just begin. Let me just check because we are also streaming the webinar on YouTube. Just trying to set that up.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. ठीक है. So I think we can begin, and I think more people can keep on joining in as we go along. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. And as you all know, you will be learning about improving your website performance. And some of the topics that we intend to cover are, the importance of website performance, what exactly it is, understanding performance metrics, and different concepts within the website performance, and also some of the tools, some of the online resources that you can use in your learning journey. So I'm quite happy to introduce Amit Kushwaha for the same. He's going to be the speaker for the session today. Amit is the lead engineer and he's currently associated with Naukri, and he has more than 6 years of experience in different front end technologies. So before we begin, just to remind all of you that you can post in your questions in the Q&A box, and once we are done with the presentation, we will be taking up your questions and trying to answer them. So please do remember to post in your questions regarding the topic. So without any further delay, Amit, you can begin. Do you want to share a presentation or you want to just go along?
I'll be sharing a presentation.
Okay, ठीक है.
Uh,
I've given you permission to share, so you can just take it
sure,
from.
sure. Hello everyone. I'm Amit Kusha, and I've been working with InfoEdge for the last 4.5 years. And before that, I was working in a startup. I have total experience of about 6 years, and I've been working on developing high performant web applications. Working quite a lot on improving the site's performance. And so this is something which I really care about, because performance or the site speed is something which defines the page experience for a user. So if we have a good performance of a website, it has a more chances of retaining that particular user and to be able to convert that user for our businesses. So let me just share my screen. Just let me know when it's visible.
Yes, yes, it's visible.
Okay. Uh, if we talk about performance is nothing but the sites, the loading, it starts from how the website is loading and how the users are able to click on it. If we look at a website like if it's a Google form, we can say that all the fields are able to fill in a very less time, and thus all the images are loading very fast. So if the site performance is good, the user has more chance to retain on that particular website, and he'll be able to register with us, and he'll be able to uh, get converted, and in the end improve the business. So if we talk about why is performance important, so as I earlier said, performance is all about retaining users. Performance is about improving the conversions, and if the performance is not good, there are chances that a user might drop, and it results into poor user experience. So if we want to give our users a very good user experience, performance is something which we should care about. It also, because performance is something which Google also takes care in its rankings, and recently they have launched certain vitals or the metrics, which they call it core web vitals. I'll be talking about them as well. And if the performance is not good, Google will rank that website in the at the lower position, and it won't be good for the SEO as well. If we look at some of the case studies, there's a website called Rakuten 24, and they have invested heavily on their core, improving their core web vitals, and which resulted in increasing their revenue by 53% and the conversion rate by 33%. Same goes for Vodafone. Vodafone is a very popular company, and they have improved their LCP of their public website by over 31%, which increased their sales by over 8%. Same goes for Redbus, which has improved their INP and increased their sales by over 7%. And if you talk about job at the company which I'm working in, so we have during the last 1.5 year we have improved our web performances heavily, and we have seen our Google rankings improve by over 50%. So this is something which is really important for SEO as well. So there are several factors which impact a site's performance or site speed. As you must have seen that the website is majorly about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And if we are using heavy CSS libraries like Material UI or libraries like AND, or it could be some third-party plugins or third-party heavy CSS libraries, then it's definitely going to impact the site speed, and it will slow it down, because at the start of the loading time, the those heavy CSS will be loaded and it will slow it down. Same goes for JavaScript. If you're using extremely heavy third-party JavaScripts or some plugins, it's going to slow it down. So if we want to improve our site speed, we should take care about CSS and JavaScript. Site speed is also impacted by the servers and the hosting plans that someone is using. It is related to if you're using a CDN or not using a CDN, uh, heavily impacts how the site speed is concerned. And same goes for the large images or the video sizes. Uh, if we have if at the starting of if the when the website is loaded, if we have some images in the, let's say, range from 1 to 2 MBs, the site will be loaded slowly, because all the network resources will be used for loading that particular image. And but if there's a website which is using just 20 or 30 KB, or let's say 50 KB of image at the start time, the network resources will easily be used in performing different tasks like loading the JavaScript, loading the third party scripts. So it is very important to load small sizes video and images. Plus there are certain strategies which I'll be talking about on how to load our images as well as videos. There are certain caching strategies as well which we should take care about. There are a lot of caching mechanisms which the browser provides, which we can leverage those. Like there's session storage, there's local storage, we can use them. And apart from that, there are caching strategies like CDN. There are different caching at the API levels as well. If we leverage all these kinds of caching strategies, we'll be able to serve our content at a faster rate, ultimately improving the our website speed. Same goes for the third-party plugins, widgets, or third-party resources or scripts. Like it could be a GTAG script, it could be a Facebook script. If we want to optimize our website performance, we should optimize these scripts as well. We should load this script after the main content of the website is loaded. The speed is also impacted by the slow service. If we have slow service, it's definitely going to impact our site speed. The traffic volume also impacts the site speed, and for that we should uh, leverage the good backend mechanisms, and so that it is able to handle large volumes of traffic, and the content is loaded at a faster rate. And the slow network connections. So whenever we are building a website, we should always concerned about uh, the mobile users as well, because majority of the websites today are built for the mobile browsers. And if we're not talking about mobile browsers, the Google will not rank them, and it will definitely impact the users end user as well. So this was about what impacts a website performance. And now if we talk about how do we measure a performance. So there are certain metrics which Google has recently introduced. And earlier they were in the initial phases, but they were not using it for the ranking of a particular website. But initially, from the last year onwards, they have started rolling out these changes. And core web vitals are really important in terms of ranking or the SEO. Let me show you for a website. So there's a website called PageSpeed Insights, where we can run an audit. We can paste any URL. It will run an audit, and it will talk about all the core vital of that particular website. So I ran it for my website, and as you can see, the LCP here is in the green category. It's 1.2, FID is 15 milliseconds, CLS is 0.02, and FCP is 1.2, INP is 186 ms. So as you can see, all these things are in the green category. It's also telling me that there's some warnings as well, but overall it's in the green zone. It is passing the core web vitals. So uh, if we want to have good core web vitals, all our vitals should be in the green zone. That is in the good category. If we talk about core web vitals, there are majorly four vitals. The first one is the largest contentful paint. The second is the CLS. Third is the FID, or the first input delay, and fourth is the interaction to next page. FCP is nothing but whenever the website is loaded, it is the largest image or the text which is getting loaded. The time required to load that particular image or that particular text, it defines the overall time the website load will take. And the LCP should be less than 2.5 seconds to be in the good category. CLS is about the layout shift a website suffers whenever its contents are loading. If we have a website and some resources are loading first and then the other resources are loaded, shifting the entire layout of the websites, it will impact the user experience, because if the entire layout is getting shifted, it will the user have a poor experience. The CLS value should be less than zero point 0.1 to be in the good category. The FID is about the responsiveness of the website. So whenever I click on something and at the let's say if I'm clicking on this particular text, and it is taking let's say 10 seconds for me to for me to be able to write on it, the FID will be higher. So the FID is the measure of how much time it is taking whenever user is clicking on something, and the time after which it is getting responded. The INP is about the interaction to next paint, is more about how the different parts of the website are being interacted. Like if there's a page and if I'm clicking on a link, and if the link is being loaded, it's loading the network resources, it is fetching some data from the API, and after I click on it, and if the user is not been able to see if the anything has happening at the backend or not. So for INP is nothing about the how the user is able to see the loaders, or like how the things are loaded. User is able to see that something is happening. So INP is about that, and it should be less than 200 ms to be in the green category. From March 24 onwards, FID will be removed, and CLS, LCP, and INP will be the core metrics. So as you can see, these are the standard metrics. The CLS should be less than zero point 0.1, FID should be less than 100 ms, and the ANP, which is the new metric, will be less should be less than 200 ms. It will be rolled down from the March 24, and LCP should be less than 2.5 to be in the green category or the good category. So we talked heavily about like what is performance, what are the different metrics. If we talk about like what exactly we can do to improve our website performance, so there are certain things which we can do to improve our website performance. The first thing is about the resource delivery. So if we optimize the delivery of our resources, our website will be loaded faster. Second is about the optimizing our images or videos or the static content which is on our website, because a lot of website is made up of a lot of images. And if we have heavy images of, let's say, 1 MB, 800 kbs, or more than 50, say, more than 100, 200 kbs, then it will consume a lot of network time, and it will slow down the website. The same goes for website fonts. If we have a font which is taking a huge time to load, then the browser will initially load the initial it will initially load the default font of the browser, and after that it will load that font which the website is using. And in that case, we'll have a heavy CLS, because the entire layout will be shifted, because there might be a case that initially there was a font has line height of, let's say, 10 pixels, and after the font level it got changed to 12 pixels. So in this case the CLS will be introduced, and the user will have a poor experience. And it's also about optimizing your CSS, as I talked earlier, and it's also about optimizing your JavaScript. For CSS, we can do is we should be using less and less. We should be relying less and less on the third party CSS libraries, and we should be able to write different CSS for mobile and the desktop devices. We should not be using the CSS which is not being used on desktop and shipping that to mobile, because this will cause the initial CSS to be loaded, which is not required. Same goes for JavaScript. We should remove the unnecessary code. We should be removing the unnecessary third-party libraries. We should be optimizing the third-party libraries. And for the native JavaScript, we should not be relying on heavy libraries like Lodash or some form libraries like forming. There are certain use cases, but we should be relying on some libraries which are less, which consume less size and which are loaded faster. And for the third party resources, we should be preloading them and prefetching them, so that they are loaded at the optimal time when the site is loaded, and it won't impact the major resources like JavaScript and CSS. So let's talk about all of them one by one. If we talk about the optimization of the resource delivery, the first thing is about the time to first byte. Time to first byte is nothing but when I'm hitting the URL. So let's say if I go to jobber.com. So as you could have seen, like the initial content was loading at a much faster rate. So this is about the first time to first byte. So whenever the first content on the site is loaded, it is called as a time to first byte, and it should be as less as possible. It should be in within like 20 to 50 milliseconds, because if the time to first byte is less, the site will be loaded very fastly. We should be using CDNs to deliver our content. CDNs are basically the content delivery networks, and what it does is it caches the page or the network request, and it will keep that cache for a particular amount of time. So let's say if I'm caching the HTML document of a page, and it is cached for, let's say, 24 hours. So what the CDN will do is it will cache that particular page. It will create a copy of it and keep it within himself, keep it within the system for the next 24 hours. And whenever someone is coming to request that particular HTML document, it will deliver it from the closest location of the user, and it will and therefore it is not fetching it directly from the server. So this way what will happen is the hop cycle or the network time will reduce significantly. It's also about the prioritization of the resources, because if we have certain resources, let's say if I go to this website, so as you can see there are certain resources like the images which which are at the bottom here, and it was there, but it was not required in the first fold. So I should not be loading it in the first fold. And as soon as I scroll it down, if those images should be loaded. Let's say if I click on show more roles. So as you can see, these images weren't loaded earlier. These are loaded after user is clicking on them. And this is called loading the this is called lazy loading, and in terms of JavaScript, this is called dynamic importing. So we should be dynamically importing our JavaScript modules, and we should be lazy loading our CSS, so that we are optimizing our resources. We are prioritizing them. What should be loaded before and what should be loaded after. In terms of critical assets, we should preload them. So let's say if I talk about the website, so this is my first image. It is at the top, and let's say the header is at the top. So these are something which will impact my LCP, because this will be loaded at the starting time, and therefore I should be preloading these resources even before even before my HTML document is loaded. So preloading our critical assets will definitely improve our loading speed. We can establish network connections early to improve our perceived page speed. So what we can do is we can preload prefetch the network connections. Let's say if I'm using some third party resource, I can establish the network beforehand, so that my speed, so the time that there won't be any time wasted in making the connection. For the playback, just I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so for the audio and video, we can also preload them, so that whenever they're loaded, we already have the connection established, and they'll be loaded faster. uh, if we talk about the optimization of images, there are certain methods which we could use to optimize our images. The first one, as we talked about, was the lazy loading of images. Whenever the image is being used by the component, we should be loading that at that particular moment. We should not be loading all our images beforehand. The another thing is about choosing the right format. There are certain formats available which has better compression as compared to others. So if we have different images in the PNG, JPEG format, we should not be using them. And instead of that, there are some new level of new image formats which are available, called WebP or the AVIF image formats. So if we use them, uh, they are loaded faster, and they are very good level of compression. So if we use WebP, what will happen is we will have the same amount of resolution in almost 50 to 60% of the less size as compared to the image in the PNG or the JPEG format. We should all be as I talked earlier, we should be compressing our images, and we should have good level of compression. We should animate GIFs with videos for faster page loads. And in terms of images, we should always be using responsive images, because they could be image which is uh, which is used only on the desktop, and there could be an image which is used only on the mobile. So we should not be using the vice versa, because if we are loading the desktop image on a mobile website, uh, the screen resolution will be smaller, and it is of no use. So instead, we should use different images for them. And same goes with the correct dimensions. And let's say if there's an image which has dimensions of about 1600 cross 1600, we should not be using that on smaller devices. If the device is of 300 pixel width, we should be using images which has smaller dimensions. As I talked earlier, we should be using WebP images. Uh, we should cache our images on the CDN, because images or videos are something which generally don't change over time, and if we cache these images on a CDN, and we could cache them even for longer durations, like a month or let's say 15 days. So what will happen is whenever a user is coming to request that image, we're not going back to the server again to fetch them, but instead the CDN will return the images faster. We should be lazy loading our images, and apart from that there's a browser level image caching as well, so we should be leveraging that. We should cache our resources in the browser, though most of the modern browsers automatically caches them, but we could also define a caching strategy so that the images are lazy loaded whenever they are in the browser's viewport. If it's not in the viewport, it should not be loaded. If you talk about the optimization of web fonts, uh, the web font should there are certain things like we should always reduce the web font size. The font which we are using should be like there should not be any invisible text whenever the font is loading. We should show loaders at that time, and whenever the font is loaded, we should try to load it initially so that there is no CLS involved, because web fonts are something which causes heavy CLS during the page load time. So we should be using fonts which are similar to the web browser's default font, and we should be using font sizes which are smaller in size. If we are able to do that, we should have like good CLS on even on mobile devices and even on networks which are poor, like 3G or the edge networks. If we talk about the optimization of CSS, the first thing is we should be writing CSS which should be in native styles, and we should be more relying on the native styles instead of using third party libraries. We should always defer our non critical CSS. We should minify our CSS resources, and whenever there's some critical CSS required, we should extract that. We should be using some compression like gzip compression for our JavaScript and CSS. And for the background images, we should be using meter queries, and we should never be like passing the uh, we should never be using the desktop styles to the into the mobile styles. If we talk about the optimization of third party resources, uh, uh, we should always be slow rendering our third party resources, because they we should always efficiently load our third party resources, because these are the third party resources are something which impacts our site heavily. So there could be a script which is not required at the start time. What we can do is we could defer them, and if there's a script which is only required when the user is clicking on something, we should import that script only at that particular time, and we should not be loading it at the initial phase of our website. And apart from that, we should identify the slow third party JavaScript, and we should always defer them. If we talk about the optimization of JavaScript, this is something which is really important in terms of improving a website, because majority of the websites that are being created these days are made up of JavaScripts, and are made up of JavaScript frameworks like there's Next.js, there's React, there's Angular, and they use heavy JavaScript. And we should be if we don't optimize our JavaScript, our website is definitely going to be slow. So for that, first, what we can do is we could break the entire task into smaller tasks, and we should first identify what are the long tasks. So what exactly is a long task? A long task is something which is which is blocking the main thread of the browser for more than 50 milliseconds. So if the browser is blocked for 50 milliseconds, it is considered as a main task, as a long task. So the more number of long tasks are there, the browser will be busy loading those, performing those long tasks, and it won't be able to do different things like whenever user is clicking or like loading a css or a fonts. So what we should do is we should always optimize the long tasks. So we should be using instant loading with the PRPL pattern, and we should be using code splitting pattern. We should be using code splitting and dynamically loading our JavaScript. So as I've talked earlier, so if my website is like this, and there are certain components which are not in the viewport first. Let's say if I'm clicking on this particular button, this particular model will open, and here if loading this particular model beforehand, it is not required, because this is something which only happens whenever user is clicking. And so therefore I should be loading this particular resource whenever the user is clicking. And therefore what we can do is we could split our entire JavaScript code into different pieces using code splitting, and only delivering them whenever they are required. This one is obvious, like we should remove unused code, because over the time period of like whenever the website is built after 1 or 2 years, there will be a lot of unused code. We should always revisit that code and remove the unused JavaScript which is being there. We should minify and compress the network payload, and for that we could use compression libraries like gzip. And if we use frameworks like Next.js, it automatically do that, and it will minify our JavaScript. We should use modern code to modern browsers for faster page load. So this is about using the modern frameworks like Next.js, which does the server side rendering. So we should be using things like the modern frameworks, because what it does is it delivers the code in a very efficient manner. It does the code splitting for us. It does the server side rendering. So we should be focused more on that. Apart from that, we should like publish, ship, and install modern JavaScript for faster application. And so we should always know about how the common JS is making our bundles larger, because what happens is if uh, whenever the website is loaded, there are certain chunks which are being loaded initially, but there is something called as common JS which is loaded, which contains the majority of the size of the JavaScript. So we should make sure that the common JS should be smaller in size. We should also focus more on the server side rendering, because whenever the page is loaded, as you can see, the website is loaded as soon as I'm opening it. So because it is rendered service from the server side, and nothing is loaded initially on the client side, so it helps us in loading our website faster. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. So this was about like how we can optimize our resources and what are the core web vitals. And if you want to like learn more about it, you can go to web.dev's website, and you can learn more about uh, what are the different ways where we can uh, optimize our website. We can run an audit for our website using the PageSpeed Insights audit. If you go there and put a URL and click on analyze, it will show you all the things which are there to improve. It will show you what is the LCP element, what is the TBT, and what are the blocking resources, what are the layout shifts we are getting. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Okay. You can stop sharing the screen, or you can switch to the presentation, because there's a speed video coming in. All right. There is If there is any questions from the people here on Zoom, you can just post in the Q&A box. There is one question from a YouTube audience. Do we need some kind of training before to run and analyze website performance for our business?
No, I don't think like it is required, because the page speed. insights gives us a lot of like great things for the analysis of a website. There are some other website as well, like the waterfall test. If you go the web page test, it will show you all the uh, different chunks of the different resources which are loaded, and it will also tell you like what should one do to improve that particular chunk. So yeah, I don't think there's a training required. There are a lot of YouTube resources which are available. So yeah, and if it's anything required, you can like reach out to me.
Okay, so I don't believe there are any more questions here. I will just quickly launch a poll so that we can understand from the audience that what is the feedback for the session, was it useful, and would you recommend it to others as well? Thank you so much, Amit, for taking out the time and sharing your insights with us. We have already received some positive comments here on YouTube. I will also be sharing the YouTube link with the audience here on Zoom so that whoever is watching, if they want to go back to the session, they can just, check out that YouTube link and the session is recorded over there. So yeah, I think we have a few entries within the feedback poll. I think that should be, that should do. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amit, once again.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.